The sun hung low on the horizon as the ferry, bustling with eager holidaymakers, departed from Portsmouth. Children laughed, old friends caught up on stories, and every deck was filled with excitement about extended summer breaks on the Isle of Wight. Amidst this jovial atmosphere, no one could have predicted the eerie turn their journey was about to take. As the ferry made its way across the Solent, a thick mist enveloped it with an unsettling suddenness. The once bright sky was shrouded in gray, visibility fading to almost nothing. Conversations hushed as passengers peered curiously into the fog. "Anyone else feeling weird about this mist?" a young man remarked to his companions, trying to mask the nervous edge in his voice. "It's just mist," a woman replied, rolling her eyes. "Happens all the time." Soon, however, the confident chatter faded when the mighty engines that had been pushing them forward fell silent. The ferry drifted lifelessly, its momentum gradually sapped by the surrounding stillness. Passengers exchanged worried glances. The metallic clank of the engines echoed in their ears, now replaced by a deafening silence that felt almost oppressive. A collective gasp filled the air as they realized the crew had vanished without a trace. "Where the hell did they go?" a middle-aged woman exclaimed, clutching her partner's arm. "They couldn't just disappear." With no crew in sight and phones showing no signal bars, worried mutterings spread like wildfire amongst the passengers. They were stranded, and panic was beginning to set in. "All right, everyone, let's try and stay calm." A stern-looking man stood up on a bench, trying to assume command. "We need to figure this out together." As fear and uncertainty gripped the trapped holidaymakers, they faced a daunting question. What on earth had happened to the crew? And more importantly, what should they do now? Questions filled the air, thoughts floating between the eerie fog and the vast unknown that lay beyond it. The mist clung to the ferry like a ghostly shroud, pressing the passengers to stray closer together, their expressions ranging from bewildered to downright terrified. Rumors swirled about what could have caused an entire crew to vanish. Arguments broke out, suggestions tossed out lifebuoys, but none proved useful. "First things first?" A calm voice spoke out, cutting through the noise. It was a woman in her 40s, her steady presence offering a much-needed anchor amid the panic. "We need to search the ferry thoroughly. There might be clues as to where the crew's gone, or even a way to restart the engines." Her words resonated with the group, and soon enough, small teams were formed to scour the vessel from bow to stern, looking for any hint of the missing crew. As people quietly dispersed on their assigned missions, a sense of purpose helped quell the rising tide of fear. Yet, amidst the organized chaos, another challenge demanded attention survival. "Listen up, everyone," a new voice rose above the crowd. It belonged to a rugged-looking man, his presence instantly commanding respect. "While we search for the crew, we need a backup plan. There's no guarantee they'll be found, and we can't just sit on our asses waiting for a miracle." He gestured towards the emergency equipment stowed throughout the ship. "We should start pooling resources. Everyone with survival experience or knowledge in first aid needs to step forward. We should also check what equipment we have that still works." As the sun dipped lower, surrounded by a blurring horizon, it became imperative to strategize for the long night ahead. With no guarantee of imminent help, the passengers began to realize they'd have to rely on each other if they were to stay safe and sound. Within this impromptu community, hope flickered like a candle barely holding its flame against the gathering dark. Meanwhile, the teams tasked with finding hints of the crew made their way through the mist-enshrouded corridors, steeling themselves for whatever revelation awaited. It remained to be seen where this eerie journey would lead them, and who among them would rise to prominence in their efforts to survive. As the teams ventured deeper into the vessel, they uncovered an unsettling sight that sent chills down their spines. Crew uniforms lay abandoned, perfectly laid out as if the wearers had been plucked from existence, leaving only empty shells behind. This discovery, far from providing solace, magnified their sense of isolation and dread. "It's like they just evaporated," one of the searchers whispered, standing frozen at the threshold of the crew's quarters. Realization dawned upon the group. The crew had not left voluntarily, nor were there signs of a struggle. Whatever happened was inexplicable within the confines of normal logic. This revelation was both horrifying and demoralizing, casting the passengers deeper into the abyss of uncertainty. Meanwhile, on the upper decks, the discussion of a long-term survival plan took an urgent, albeit chaotic turn. "What do you mean, survival plan? Are we really just giving up on getting home?" A young woman blurted out, her voice trembling with emotion. "It's not about giving up," the rugged leader replied with a steady voice, trying to calm the rising panic. "But we have to face facts. Help might not come as quickly as we'd like. We need to be ready for that." His words sparked a mix of reactions. Some nodded in silent agreement, understanding the stark reality of their predicament. Others, however, found it difficult to quell the instinctual fear that now gnawed at the edges of their sanity. Key decisions floated amidst the murmur of anxious voices. Rationing food and water supplies, establishing a system for maintaining contact between groups, and brainstorming ways to maintain warmth and safety through the approaching night. The need to remain not just vigilant, but optimistic was paramount, as morale would be crucial in seeing them through this ordeal. Despite the tension, a flicker of resilience began to grow, small acts of cooperation surfacing as individuals shared skills and resources. Together, they braced for whatever lay ahead, knowing that the first step to surviving was accepting the reality, no matter how impossible it seemed. Between the unsettling evidence of the crew's fate and the daunting task of improvising survival, the passengers faced a critical juncture, forging unity while searching for an escape from the nightmare they couldn't comprehend. As the chilling mist thickened with the onset of night, the resourceful passengers realized the necessity of establishing a signal for any potential rescue operations. A collective effort ensued to gather every torch and flashlight available on the ferry, allowing them to construct a giant beacon of light on the highest deck, visible even through the heavy fog. "This should be bright enough to catch someone's attention out there," a younger man suggested while adjusting the makeshift tower of light, his eyes flickering with determination. "If it shines long enough, someone's bound to see it." The beacon, illuminating the night from its perch, became not only a call for help, but a symbol of hope, its light cutting through both the fog and the despair that threatened to pull the passengers under. Meanwhile, the natural leader, conscious of the necessity to maintain morale, established task groups amongst the passengers. Each group was entrusted with specific responsibilities, providing both focus and distraction as the hours dragged on. "All right, everyone listen up," the rugged man announced, his voice carrying authority but also an undeniable empathy. "We need lookouts on all decks, and a few of you to handle organizing the food supplies. Not to mention keeping that," he pointed up at the beacon, "running as long as we can." Small teams were formed. Old sailors who'd traveled these waters took up positions as lookouts, while others prepared meals from the stored supplies. Each new duty helped stifle the palpable panic that lingered at the edges of the passengers' consciousness, directing their thoughts towards survival rather than despair. "We're going to get through this," a middle-aged woman reassured a nearby group, her steady hands distributing blankets to ward off the cold night air. "We just have to stick together." With jobs assigned and the light of their beacon burning brightly, a sense of camaraderie began to permeate the ferry. Despite the uncertainty and fear, the passengers found solace in unity, bolstered by the shared goal of surviving until help could finally pierce through the mist and deliver them from this waking nightmare. As the night grew darker, the ferry sat adrift in the thick, lingering mist, the constructed beacon sending forth its relentless beams into the sky. The passengers could only pray that these desperate rays would pierce through the oppressive fog and reach the eyes of someone searching for them from above. "Let's keep this aimed high." "There has to be search aircraft out there," the young man from earlier said, his hands never leaving the makeshift spotlight. Every glance upwards was filled with the hope of catching even the faintest glimmer of response in the distant heavens. Yet, beneath the hopeful vigil, unresolved tension coiled tightly among the stranded passengers. Anger simmered among them, a brewing storm seeking release. "Who the hell brought us here into this mess to begin with?" a woman snapped, her voice a caustic whip through the chilly air. Arguments flared up as individuals demanded answers no one could provide, looking for scapegoats in a situation defined by its very inexplicability. "It's not helping turning on each other," another man intervened, desperation tinging his attempts to restore order. "We need to focus on finding a way out, not tearing ourselves apart." But blame was a salve for fear, and despite earnest attempts to keep unity strong, dissent began to ripple through the groups, threatening the fragile veneer of camaraderie. The natural leader, sensing the danger of allowing these emotions to fester, moved quickly to mediate. "Listen to me," he called out, his voice clear and steady, managing to rise above the fray. "We're all scared and unsure, but fighting amongst ourselves won't get us anywhere. We need to pull together now more than ever." His words, dipped in sincerity, were like a balm, bringing a momentary calm. With their collective eyes still trained on the sky, the passengers returned to duty, carrying with them the weight of uncertainty and the flickering hope that soon they'd see signs of salvation threading through the starless veil above. As the first light of dawn began to faintly bleed into the sky, the occupants of the ferry realized they were in for another day adrift with no sign of rescue in sight. The intention was that their beacon would be seen by a search aircraft, but the vast silence of the morning offered no such reassurance. Resigned to their temporary fate, the passengers braced for yet another day stranded amidst the unyielding mist. Understanding the pressing need for unity in the face of growing tensions, the natural leader, alongside a few others who'd maintained clear heads and steady hearts, proposed a new approach to sustain cooperation. A passenger council. "A council where decisions are voted on could give everyone a voice," suggested a former schoolteacher, her calm demeanor inviting consensus. "If we agree to abide by majority rule, it might stave off more arguments." The idea resonated with many passengers who were eager to regain a semblance of control over their unpredictable circumstances. Huddled on the upper deck, they held their first informal meeting, outlining how representatives would be selected and which pressing issues required immediate attention. Tasks such as rationing remaining supplies, establishing clearer communication between groups, and maintaining the beacon became subjects of discussion, approached methodically and democratically. "We'll hold on to our search beacon as long as possible," one passenger on the council remarked, hope bolstering his words, "and make sure everyone has a say in what we prioritize each day." This newfound council quickly constructed a framework for managing resources and resolving disputes, emphasizing respect for diverse opinions and transparent decision-making. By engaging everyone in the process, they hoped to prevent the divisive arguments that had threatened their fragile bonds. Remembering that their survival depended not just on physical needs, but also on morale, they planned activities to keep spirits lifted from storytelling sessions to makeshift entertainment. Through these initiatives, they aimed to foster a sense of community, rallying everyone around a shared purpose as they awaited the moment their beacon would finally be answered. Through cooperation and collective decision-making, they fortified their ranks, steeling themselves for whatever the uncertain day ahead might throw their way. The formation of the Passenger Council breathed new life into the weary souls stranded aboard the ferry. With a structured framework in place, people felt their voices mattered, and the veil of helplessness began to lift. By fostering participation and agency, the council allowed each individual to feel as though they had a hand in shaping their communal destiny. "It's not just about calling the shots," the schoolteacher remarked during a pause in the council meeting, her expression lightened by newfound optimism. "It's about knowing that we all have a say in what happens to us. That's powerful in its own right." With hopes buoyed by this democratic process, the passengers spent the day with a reinvigorated purpose, attending to their tasks with a renewed sense of unity and mutual respect. Discussions were more constructive, and camaraderie flourished where tension had once been. However, just as the collective pulse of the ferry stabilized, an unexpected phenomenon unfolded. In the afternoon, the ever-present mist began to clear, swirling away overhead to reveal a circle of clear sky directly above the vessel. "Look, an opening," one lookout yelled, pointing skywards to where the sun now streamed through the break in the clouds. A flurry of excitement coursed through the passengers like electricity. This unexpected event posed both an opportunity and a challenge to the council's planned actions. The assembly quickly gathered to deliberate, their voices hushed yet fervent. "This might be our best chance to signal for help," suggested one council member, adrenaline evident in his tone. "We need to shoot all the flares into that gap while we have the chance." The council's decision was swift, buoyed by the hope that this rare opportunity to breach their cloistered world with a message would not be squandered. Passengers collected the flares, assisting in the improvised launch setup. As each flare soared into the open sky, they carried not just an SOS but also the collective breaths of those watching below, willing those fiery trails to bridge the void and summon salvation. The council's decisive actions affirmed the people's trust in them and reignited the hope that their cries for help would finally be answered. Together, they waited, gazing upwards at the sky that held the promise of rescue, each heartbeat in rhythm with the trails of smoke still hanging in the air, marking the spot where their hopes shot heavenward. As the last of the flares sputtered out against the backdrop of blue, many of the passengers remained hopeful, eyes glued to the gap in the mist that slowly began to close again. Their prayers seemed to take form when the distant thrum of rotor blades echoed through the air. Emerging from the far edge of their visibility, a rescue helicopter appeared, its blades carving through the air with the promise of salvation. "They found us!" cried a passenger, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. Waves of elation swept across the decks, lightness filling the spaces where fear had long resided. Yet, just as swiftly as the helicopter drew nearer, the mist began its inexorable encroachment, folding back over the ferry with a determined sweep. As thick as before, the fog enclosed the vessel once more, like a prison cell softly swinging shut. Despite these visual impediments, the helicopter's presence reassured the passengers that their distress signals had been noticed, sparking the hope that rescue operations were in motion. "At least they know where we are now," a passenger remarked, maintaining optimism. "They'll organize a way to come get us soon." Meanwhile, understanding the volatile nature of their situation, the passenger council reconvened, prioritizing immediate contingency measures in case help lagged. "Until they find a way to reach us through this mist, we have to make the most of what we have," the rugged leader advised, gesturing towards the diminishing food and water supplies. Plans were swiftly set into motion, focusing on meticulous rationing of food and water, now more precious than ever. Daily portions were calculated with precision to ensure sustenance for everyone during their indefinite wait. "We've been through the worst," insisted one council member as rations were distributed, her eyes reflecting determination. "Now, we just need to hold on a little bit longer." With their spirits buoyed by the promise of approaching aid and the security provided by the council's practical measures, the passengers could only hang on, knowing that amidst the challenges they'd faced, resilience had become both shield and sword. As the ferry remained nestled in the relentless embrace of the mist, time stretched in ways unimaginable. The passengers, each coping with their emotions and hopes in varied ways, created a mixed tapestry of human resilience and vulnerability. Many found solace in prayer, gathering in small circles, hands clasped and voices lifting in unison. These gatherings offered comfort through shared faith, fortifying hearts with the strength of community and belief. "We're not alone in this," whispered a woman amidst such a circle, her eyes closed, her voice a quiet balm against the mounting anxiety. Conversely, some passengers sought comfort in the refuge of forgetfulness, drinking what little alcohol remained in the ferry's reserves to temper the edges of despair and impatience. "We'll be out of here soon," a man muttered optimistically, his drink offering temporary escape from the present uncertainty. Others, driven by curiosity and intellect, delved into discussions and sometimes heated debates. They forged theories on why they were ensnared by the mist, tapping into whatever knowledge or imagination they could muster. "There could be a natural phenomenon at play, or something more sinister," suggested a younger passenger, his mind working tirelessly to find explanations. Amidst this tapestry of hopes and fears, an unexpected discovery jolted them further along their path to potential rescue. The ferry softly collided with an empty RNLI rescue boat, eerily adrift in the mist. This encounter sent ripples of urgency and confusion through the ranks and enlivened the council's deliberations. This could change everything. Another member of the council addressed the group, her mind racing ahead. We need to explore that boat carefully. Maybe there's a clue or equipment that can help us. This new development challenged the council to reconsider their priorities as they balanced the need for exploration against the imperative to conserve energy and resources. The passengers sealed their determination, fortified by this touch of civilization amidst their isolation, and with collaborative effort, launched an investigation with renewed vitality. As they examined the ghostly vessel that had intersected their path, each individual felt the delicate dance between hope and despair, for whatever they discovered might alter their fate once again. As the boldest among the passengers boarded the empty RNLI rescue boat, anticipation pulsed in the air. Inside the cockpit, they stumbled upon a fortuitous find a two-way radio that showed signs of life. The hope that had flickered tenuously before now burst into a potent flame, promising renewed possibilities for contacting the outside world. "This could be it. This could be our chance to reach someone," exclaimed a young woman, carefully inspecting the radio, her fingers trembling, not with fear, but with a burgeoning excitement. The council immediately convened, deliberating on how to best utilize this newfound tool. The existence of this working radio opened a significant pathway to potential rescue, a lifeline hemming their sense of isolation. "Let's try to contact the Coast Guard or any nearby vessels immediately," declared the rugged leader, his voice resonating with new optimism. "We need to conserve its battery, so we must make every attempt count." Communication protocols were quickly established. A plan was formed to send distress signals at calculated intervals, each transmission accompanied by detailed descriptions of their position and situation. With this newfound asset, a sense of control rippled through the passengers that had felt painfully absent since the mist first descended. "We might just be able to talk to someone who can help," whispered one of the passengers involved in the relay. His statement reflected the sentiments of many who seemed buoyed by this glimpse of tangible hope. The excitement was infectious, spreading far and wide across the decks, charging the air with palpable anticipation. As preparations unfolded and the passengers gathered around in supportive vigils, night began to creep upon them, Rosalie welcomed rather than dreaded. Confidence rose with the radio's promise, steering the council and passengers to face another night adrift with uplifted spirits. This unexpected boon redefined their collective vision for rescue, galvanizing them with the belief that soon their voices might carry through the haze and finally be heard beyond their floating world of mist. Mutual encouragement blossomed as they clung to this newfound hope, preparing for yet another stretch of vigilant waiting with unity and resilience brighter than before. Under the cloak of evening, the passengers crowded around the rescue boat's two-way radio, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Fingers fidgeted with the device as they attempted to establish contact, sending their plea into the abyss. "Mayday, Mayday, this is the Ferry. We are adrift in the mist with no crew." Success came with the crackle of static followed by the comforting, if clipped, tones of the shore station. They poured out their condition, detailing the ferry's name and its inexplicable predicament. As the frantic voices on the ferry paused, however, the unexpected reply from the shore hit them like an icy wave. "There is no record of such a ferry," said the voice from the Coast Guard, authoritative yet skeptical. "We urge you to refrain from clogging rescue channels with pranks." The response sucked the air from the small space, disbelief washing over the passengers who exchanged worried glances. This dismissal left them as disoriented as when they first found themselves alone on the vast water, threatening their newfound hope. "How could they not know about us? We're real, damn it!" a woman exclaimed, frustration lacing her words as she struggled to contend with this unnerving development. The jolt of skepticism from the Coast Guard challenged their very existence. Yet the council refused to succumb to despair. They resolved to try again, confident in the truth of their being, determined to convince the outside world of their plight. With the radio now linked to the ship's power supply, precautions were put in place to utilize its limited charge with maximum efficiency. Rather than sporadic calls, they began coordinating concise, repeated messages detailing their location and circumstances, hoping persistence would break through disbelief. "We just have to get through to someone who'll listen," the rugged leader encouraged, rallying spirits. "This isn't over not by a long shot." The ferry, rocked by the surreal twist and the emotional upheaval, sizably tempered its hope with resilience. The passengers girded themselves, trusting in their shared reality, committed to fortifying their unity and keeping the fight for recognition alive, despite the swirling fog of obscurity that bound them. Faced with the skeptical responses from the Coast Guard and the disheartening realization of their bizarre predicament, the passengers banded together in a renewed attempt to assert their reality. Understanding the importance of proving their authenticity, the Council devised a plan as daring as it was desperate. "We need to make it clear that this is no prank," the rugged leader declared, determination igniting a flicker of hope once more. "If they hear us together, they can't deny our existence." Gathering everyone within earshot of the radio, the passengers prepared for a synchronized plea. At the signal, voices rang out in unison, a collective cry reaching into the ether. "Save us! Save us!" The echo of their desperation was palpable, earnest in its harmonious plea. "They can't ignore that," a woman murmured reassuringly, hope dancing in her eyes as she hugged her fellow passengers close. Meanwhile, the shared anguish of their situation fostered new theories among the passengers, as minds attempted to rationalize why their existence could be so easily dismissed. Whispers of alternate realities began to circulate, notions of a parallel dimension where their ferry had slipped through cracks beyond comprehension. What if we're somewhere else entirely, a place where our ferry doesn't belong? A thoughtful passenger surmised, frowning as he wrestled with the implications. The idea gained traction amongst the anxious throng, providing an unsettling answer to the impossible circumstances in which they found themselves. While frightening, it offered a strange comfort and explanation for the dismissal by the world they had previously known. Yet, despite the strange hypotheses forming within their ranks, the collective outcry had renewed their spirits. They stood firm in their belief that, no matter the improbability, rescue was within reach if they could just convince someone to take their plight seriously. Glimmers of hope persisted as influence bloomed from distress with unyielding resolve, driving them to seize every chance of reclaiming their place in whatever world they now fit. The unified cry of "Save us" that echoed from the ferry through the radio waves bore more weight than any single voice of distress. The shore station, swayed by the undeniable harmony of the plea, finally took notice of the collective desperation that resided within the impenetrable mist. "They believe us," the rugged leader announced with palpable relief after receiving the response they'd yearned for. "They're sending a craft to the coordinates we've given." The ferry, suddenly charged with a renewed sense of hope, erupted in joyous disbelief. Jubilance spread among the passengers, their spirits buoyed by the promise of rescue now firmly under consideration. The prospect of an investigative search injected newfound energy into their weight, anchoring their faith into the world outside their mist-shrouded existence. Meanwhile, as the tantalizing notion of a parallel dimension continued to swirl in their minds, the Council convened to contemplate their survival while navigating this mysterious reality. Faced with the uncertainty of their location and existence, they resolved to take the only action they conceived might return them to familiar territory. "If we can retrace our journey and restart the engines, maybe we can break free from wherever we are," proposed one council member, hope and practicality coloring her voice. The plan, both daring and challenging, was set into motion. A group skillfully organized an effort to assess the engines, hoping that their combined abilities would spark life back into the ship. A semblance of direction amidst the chaos urged them to trace their path in reverse, aiming to slip back into their dimension where rescue waited. "It's risky, but it's a shot worth taking," another passenger echoed, belief intertwining with the courage emanating from their collective endeavor. As efforts focused on reigniting their journey home, each passenger grasped the duality of their situation, threading the needle between an approaching rescue and the need to actively navigate their strange predicament. Supported by the solemn strength that had carried them this far, they embraced cautious optimism. The resolve to unravel this mystery infused their cooperative spirit, weaving hope and effort into the heart of their uncertain reality, forging toward the potential light ahead where unknown answers awaited. Anxious anticipation thrummed aboard the ferry as the passengers awaited any sign of the rescue craft's approach. The air was thick with the tension of expectation, layered with the intricate complexities of where they found themselves. When the rescue craft finally arrived at the given coordinates, visible just off the bow in the mist, relief surged only to evolve quickly into profound astonishment. Instead of familiar uniforms and human faces, the figures piloting the craft exuded an unmistakably alien presence. "They're not human," gasped a woman, her eyes wide as she beheld the otherworldly beings stepping onto the ferry. Alien yet not threatening, they carried an air of understanding that defied initial fears. The passengers, torn between awe and cautious curiosity, watched as these non-human rescuers moved with purpose, scanning the ferry with seemingly sentient tech crafted from unknown materials. "Perhaps they understand not just our predicament, but this place," the rugged leader mused, trying to bridge the unfathomable gap. "If they found us here, they could lead us out." Meanwhile, intent on unlocking their own solution, the passengers tackled the challenge of sparking life into the ferry's engines. Faced with a tangle of unfamiliar controls and systems, their initial attempts seemed daunting and aimless. "We don't even know if they're operational," one passenger sighed, frustration threading her words. However, hope shimmered again as an elderly man, once a sailor in the merchant navy, stepped forward. His seasoned eyes scanned the machinery with familiarity. "It's been a while, but I believe I can offer some help," he announced. Humility and assurance blended seamlessly in his tone. Utilizing latent skills, he began unraveling the complexity of the engine room. With the alien rescuers nearby and the aged seaman's insights at the helm, the passengers surged into action with renewed vigor and a dynamic blend of external aid paired with intrinsic resilience. They stood at a tantalizing brink of emergence, poised to delve further into the complexities of their surreal circumstances, where cross-dimensional travel and new world revelations merged unexpectedly. Hope, bolstered by these dual avenues of potential escape, guided them eagerly toward uncharted possibilities, beckoning from just beyond the boundary of the known. The initial shock of seeing the humanoid figures boarding the ferry with palpable confidence gave way to surprise and relief as the passengers realized these beings spoke perfect English. The alien rescuer, slightly taller and with iridescent skin, introduced themselves as the inhabitants of this parallel dimension's United Kingdom. "So, you have a United Kingdom here as well?" a passenger asked, seeking validation in the bizarre familiarity. "Indeed," responded one of the alien leaders, their voice resonant yet calming. "This mist you encountered is a phenomenon known to trap objects and beings, sometimes pulling them across dimensional barriers." Their demeanor conveyed both empathy and a genuine desire to assist. Through their dialogue with these dimensional counterparts, the passengers gleaned insights into the mechanics of their situation, further understanding the parallel world's nuances and realizing the fortuitous stroke of having encountered helpful allies rather than further unknown threats. Meanwhile, in the engine room, the old sailor, bolstered by the aliens' advanced understanding of their own shipborne technologies, set to work. The aliens collaborated seamlessly with him, providing a mix of technical skill and data. "Let's reroute this power line and see if they'll crank," the former merchant navy man suggested, hands deftly maneuvering amongst the controls, with the aliens guiding him where necessary. The cooperative effort bore fruit as the engines rumbled to life once more with a tentative roar, their mechanical heart beginning to pulse through the ship again. This milestone marked a convergence of hopes and strategies, merging the resources of both worlds. Now with functioning engines, plans to retrace their path through the mist took precedence, embraced enthusiastically by the passengers, buoyed by the notion they might soon reach their rightful dimension once more. "Thank you," the rugged leader addressed both the aged sailor and their alien compatriots. "With your help, we stand a real chance of going home." The collaborative synergy between the passengers and the benevolent beings from this alternate reality solidified the new path forward. With engines coursing and the knowledge shared, they plotted their navigation towards re-entry, hearts thrumming with anticipation and gratitude for destinies refined by unexpected fellowship. With the engines humming back to life, and the path forward, or rather backward, illuminated by newfound wisdom, the passengers and their alien allies set their sights on retracing their journey through the enigmatic mist. "The ship's electronic log has been recording our path all along," one of the aliens pointed out, motioning to the display projected before them. "We can program an exact reverse course into your autopilot to guide you back." By capitalizing on this fortuitous digital breadcrumb trail, they carefully input the necessary adjustments to the navigation system, setting their coordinates to mirror their original trajectory, an exact undoing of the steps that led them into this liminal space. While coordinating this plan of action, they remained vigilant for potential obstacles, shifts in the mist, interference in their knowledge of dimensional transition, and any unforeseen quirks that might impede their determined return. "We've come this far. Nothing will stop us from getting back," affirmed a tech-savvy passenger involved in assisting, her resolve sharpening as they initiated the course. As they embarked on this bid to cross dimensions, many passengers found themselves awash with a storm of emotions, tinged with hope, but also with an undercurrent of gratitude. "I can hardly believe what we've experienced and how they've helped us," one passenger reflected, casting a warm look toward their alien compatriots. "We owe our chance of returning home to them." Fascinated by the depth of compassion and understanding extended to them across worlds, they silently vowed to ensure the truth of their incredible ordeal was known, and to cherish the lessons learned from these dimensional travelers. "We'll share this. Tell the world what exists beyond our own," another passenger murmured, contemplating the profound implications of their strange odyssey. With engines purring, the autopilot programmed, and hearts guarded by the guide of shared goodwill, the passengers steeled themselves for the last leg of their extraordinary journey back through the mist towards the familiar tapestry of their rightful world, armed with stories waiting to unfold. As the ferry's autopilot guided the vessel along the charted reverse course, the air thickened with anticipation, and the hum of engines blended with a tangible sense of destiny unfolding. With coordinates locked in, they traversed through the shifting mists, a palpable tension underscoring every mile they reclaimed from the mysterious expanse. Then, as if responding to an invisible cue, the missing crew began to rematerialize aboard the ferry. Their appearances were gradual, first flickering in and out like ghostly apparitions before gaining solidity. Confusion etched across their faces. They blinked at the passengers, trying to grasp the disjointed reality they had returned to. "They're coming back," a passenger exclaimed, pointing as more crew members reappeared. Relief intermingled with astonishment cascaded through the ranks of passengers as they witnessed the revival of their once-absent attendants. Yet, amidst this phenomenon, the alien rescuers made a consequential decision. Wary of the dimensional dissonance, they acknowledged the risk of displacement themselves if they lingered. With deep empathy, they took their leave, wishing the passengers well and trusting their journey would see completion. "We've done all we can. Now it's your turn to return safely," one alien bid them farewell, eyes reflecting kinship and hope before the mist enveloped them, cementing their parting as a moment of poignant resonance. As vessel and crew steadily forged on, thoughts turned to the world awaiting them. Concepts of time and experience wove intricately with mundane realities as the passengers devised plans to fully communicate their incredible saga. "We'll post everything on social media, TV, newspapers. We have to let people know," vowed a determined passenger, the potential reach of technology bolstering the assurance her tale would spread widely. In addition to sharing their story, they knew the bizarre intricacies demanded formal attention. Plans formed rapidly to contact defense authorities, those who might understand the layers of physics and realities, folding over their journey, and examine the abilities to bridge worlds. As the ferry re-emerged gradually into familiar waters, the formerly adrift passengers, now bearing their newfound insights, stood ready to tell their tale. imprinted with the journey not just of nautical miles, but of untold universes, traversed by the hand of fate. As the ferry drew closer to the shores of their original dimension, the atmosphere on board was permeated by a mix of excitement and incredulity. The crew, now fully corporeal and operating with mechanical routine, greeted the eager passengers who rushed to share their extraordinary experiences. "What are you on about? The day's gone by like any other," a crew member remarked, casually brushing off the passengers' urgent recounting of their journey through the mist. To the crew, no time had passed and no abnormality had occurred. Their expressions held disbelief, unconsciously echoing the indifference they'd shown when first materializing back amidst the travelers. "You were gone. All of you just vanished," one passenger insisted, meeting blank stares and casual nonchalance. "You have to believe us, we encountered something incredible." Despite their fervent explanations, the crew regarded the passengers' tales as fanciful delusions, promptly returning to their duties as though nothing was amiss, leaving the passengers grappling with the baffling divergence of experience and reality. Determined to share their story and expecting validation from those beyond the vessel, the passengers immediately turned to social media upon docking. They documented their ordeal with photos, videos, and first-hand accounts, hoping to capture the intrigue of the virtual audience. Yet the reaction was deflating. "They think we're pulling a prank," one passenger noted desolately, scrolling through dismissive comments accusing them of contriving a hoax. With incredulity from both the crew and online world, their tale quickly crumbled under the weight of collective skepticism. Even efforts to contact news stations and defense authorities were met with courteous skepticism and polite dismissal, the extraordinary nature of the claims overshadowed by their implausibility. "We know what happened, even if no one else does," another passenger vowed, reaffirming their unity and willingness to keep telling their story despite widespread disbelief. Grounded in their shared reality of remarkable experiences, the passengers clung to the truth known in their hearts. Though they faced a world unconvinced, they cherished the bond forged in resilience through the mist, defense against the indifference they now faced, and a testament of hope against disbelief. Faced with the overwhelming dismissal of their incredible tale, the passengers reached the poignant realization that, for now, mainstream belief may be an unreachable goal. "Maybe it's time we look for answers ourselves," a young woman suggested thoughtfully within the edges of their group, embracing a measured approach. Instead of crusading against incessant skepticism, they redirected their energy toward a quest for logic, poring over scientific literature and engaging with fringe researchers about dimensional theories and anomalistic psychology. The quest offered both intellectual purpose and the companionship of shared pursuit, reframing their experience in a new, empowering light. "If no one else will help, we'll just have to uncover the truth on our own," asserted a man encouragingly, bolstering their communal resolve. Individually, each passenger carried the memory of their dimensional sojourn like a precious secret, a touchstone reminding them of possibilities beyond the tangible world. Though society viewed them through a lens of disbelief, the intimately shared ordeal left an indelible imprint. This descent into obscurity unfolded as a withdrawal from society, a choice to dwell amidst the quieter spaces of life, where judgment softened and reflection thrived. Yet every year, they clasped hands once more for a survivor's reunion, celebrating the bonds unwavering against the passage of time. "We may have been forgotten by others, but not by each other," a woman reflected during one reunion, her smile a beacon of camaraderie and shared understanding. Each gathering was a heartening confluence, keeping the flame of their inexplicable journey alive. Together they revisited those strange shared moments of wonder and fear, galvanizing hope that answers might yet be found, even if prolonged and convoluted in their timeline. With their story forever etched in the heart of an unforeseen reality, they resolved to cherish the unexplained as a unique chapter written within their life's tapestry, remaining forever connected by the mists from which they emerged, and, fortified by unity, embraced the unknown. Though society would never recognize the depths of their passage through dimensions, they braved the future with quiet determination, each step forward a testament to resilience and hope beyond understanding.